Hello, good evening, and welcome to Conversations with Esther. Tonight, our guest is in the house, Dr. Nancy. Thank you for honoring the invitation. We are privileged and we're honored to have you. Allow me to pray, and we can kick off. Thank you, Lord, for this session. We pray that you speak to us and you heal our hearts and strengthen us in this journey of caregiving. In Jesus' name, amen. Karibuni sana. I'll just make an intro of Conversations with Esther as we begin. Possibly for those that have not been with us before. Conversations with Esther is an impact-driven professional platform that transforms your view on matters mental health, human resource, legal, and your holistic wellness. We ignite ethical and authentic leadership while promoting best practice within industries. Conversations with Esther equips you and the workplace with relevant legal, human resource, and holistic wellness skills through corporate training, motivational talks, end-to-end consultancy support, and career mentorship programs. Now, guided by our three values, integrity, excellence, and impact, we envision a workplace transformed by professional conversations, respectable relationships, and intentional leadership. Now, today we have a conversation that is close to my heart because I am a caregiver. I was talking to Nancy and she was surprised that I am. I've been a caregiver, I think, for the past 12 or 13 years. And I know very well that the mental health of caregivers is something that we need to continue talking about. I want to thank friends that have supported me and psychologists that are close to me. I know one who is possibly in the call or joining, Tathoni Mbugwa, Victor also, and several others that have checked on me every other time. So this conversation is a conversation that is important, and it's very important to have people by your side that you can talk to and that can check in on you. So the life and challenges of a caregiver. Caregivers carry an enormous emotional load, often quietly, often alone. Supporting their mental health isn't just compassionate, it's essential. This session is a safe space to share, learn, and explore practical ways to care for yourself while caring for others. We say self-care is not selfish. It is important that we learn how to take care of ourselves as we take care of others in our lives. Now, allow me to go through the profile of our speaker, Nancy. Tonight, kindly let's meet. I don't want to task Nancy to. Let me just. Okay. Thank you for that. So allow me to pull this out. And thank you, Nancy, for being here for us and for supporting this conversation. Edwin, kindly mute. Fine. Sorry for that. So Nancy is a clinical psychologist, digital health innovator, and founder and director of My Afia Africa, a pioneering teletherapy and mental wellness platform dedicated to all families across Kenya. With 18 years of experience spanning clinical practice, that's at Gertrude's Hospital, corporate health leadership, 12 years as head of claims and digital innovation, she leads transformative conversations in mental health accessibility and community resilience. Under her leadership, My Afia Africa has earned the most innovative digital mental health platform, GHP awards in 2024, Africa Company of the Year in the year 2025. Nancy herself was named Outstanding Social Impact Champion, Super Women in Business Awards 2025. She is the convener of several national initiatives, including the Storytelling for Mental Health Summits, Women's Mental Health Summit, the Men's Resilience Mastery Lab, Coffee Conversation with Moms, and the Young Minds Festival. Allow me to just mute this too. Her expertise spans trauma-informed care, youth wellness, workplace mental health, and social-emotional resilience. She is a sought-after speaker, trainer, and community leader dedicated to redefining mental health in Africa. We have the right person in the room. Nancy, are you still there? I'm looking out for her. I know she was on the call. Yes, she is. Hi, Nancy. Karibu sana. The floor is yours. And I know Nancy has also requested that we go to our Google. Please go to Google. Type in Menti, MENTI.com, menti.com. Menti, kindly. I see we are 23 or thereabout in the room. Type in menti.com, MENTI.com. That will ask for a code. I would type in that code, or I can read it out for you if Nancy has, okay. Yeah, let me type in, please, let's go to the chat. I want us to get engaged here. There's menti.com. And when they ask for the code, it's 38236871. That's right, Nancy, isn't it? 38236871. Karibu sana, Nancy, as we engage.
Thank you very much, Esther, for the warm welcome. And I'm very happy to be here this evening. Thank you for this invitation. I'm requesting that you allow me the right to share my screen meanwhile, so that as we start these conversations, I am hoping that all of us are going to participate so that we make it conversational as opposed to just being a presentation. Because in one way or the other, we could be having some of us directly affected or impacted, or currently some of us are also giving the caregiving role. So each of us, we come here carrying either an understanding or a struggle around the same topic that we are having. So if we go to the menti.com, there are some questions that are there, and just to see the understanding and to see whether we are on the same page, all of us. Maybe some of us have had experiences, maybe others have not had experiences. Kindly answer to the first question if you're already there. Esther, confirm whether you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. You could possibly put it on full screen.
I've only seen one person respond to the first question, which is asking who is a caregiver. A person who takes care, one that cares for others. Let's do this. We are 24. Maybe at least half of the room should be able to answer. Sometimes when we think of caregivers, we think of the people we know. Someone went abroad and now is doing a caregiving role. But in the simple terms, who is a caregiver? Who is a caregiver? Unless we have not been able to get to Menti, I'm having very little interaction in that space. Menti.com on Google, and then you enter the code, and then you'll find the first question there. The next question is asking, have you ever been a caregiver? Let's go to the question number 2. Have you been a caregiver? Yes, I have. Yes, yes. I have. Yes, I have. I'm glad at least we have some experiential. What did you struggle with most is that question. What did you struggle with most during that caregiving period? What did you struggle with most? Go to the third question. It asks, what did you struggle with most? Emotional battles. What else? Emotion and time balance. Thank you. Emotional balance, mental health. Let's keep it coming. So one of the key things that I'm picking here is the emotions that we have to battle with. So and thank you very much for engaging mental health, exhaustion, which is physical. Thank you thank you so much for sharing these particular battles that you have had to endure, and therefore allow me to get into the conversation tonight, because in our midst, we have people who have experienced or have had to take care of someone who is dealing with mental health issues. Someone else has dealt with a child going through some other struggles. But the bigger question that we should be talking to tonight: how does a journey look like? Who is a caregiver? Because sometimes, as I have said, there is a notion of thinking of caregiver as a role that is done by others who are employed, to be able to take care of that. Yeah. So in this case, we are going to ask ourselves, who is a caregiver? And just like the persons who are here and who have experiential uh, previous and prior experience supporting someone who is going through situation and circumstances, is that when you step into that role, you become the person who provides ongoing support, which is physical, depending with what the challenge the person is going through. It could be emotional, because you have to take in, some of the things they're going through, and practically to someone who cannot fully take care of themselves. By the time we are stepping into the caregiver role, it means that the person with whom we are taking care of is not able to carry on with the roles or day-to-day life tasks that they were doing before. And that support might look simple on the outside, but often it comes with deep responsibility. And a caregiver is not just somebody who does tasks. This is someone who carries responsibility that never switches off. The moment you step into a caregiving role, it's a full-time job that you have to undertake, depending with whether the situation you're addressing or the illness or the circumstance is going to be resolved at a later time. It is carrying a responsibility that never switches off. Holding another person's survival, holding someone else's dignity, holding someone else's stability in your own hands. And that means as a caregiver, you tend to live in a constant state of alertness. And that is why when I asked, how did this make you feel? The answers were around emotional, physical, mental health, not having a balance. Why? Because your life has to transform, something has to change. And you have to live in that constant state of alertness, be it emotionally, be it mentally, and sometimes physically. Physically, because most of the things is what we see, is what we'll see you doing. What we do not get to see is what happens inside there, your emotional burden, your mental uh, challenges and psychological burdens that you have to go through time. And usually, caregiving, it's less about what they do and more of about what they carry. So, who can be a caregiver? And this is a conversation that all of us alert here tonight need to know that if you haven't, you probably have witnessed. And this is something we can't run away from. One of the reasons being is because we all have parents, and if we don't have parents, we have people who depend on us, who sometimes we are always providing for. And if they become incapacitated, we have to step in. Now, who can be a caregiver? It could be a parent caring for a child with special needs, could be a spouse supporting a partner with depression or chronic illness. Now, imagine you have always had life well spelled out. You had always had plans, so you knew you were born, you were taken to school, and you started having your dreams that I will have the biggest graduation ever. From there, I'm going to get the best job ever. From there, I'm going to have the wedding of the year. And then after that is just traveling the world. And life doesn't just follow that linear line. So one day you're having transitioning from one life situation to another. So you're moving from education, and by the time you're getting married, something you didn't anticipate can happen and put you in a situation that you become a caregiver can happen. For example, the second example I'm saying, a spouse can be you supporting a partner who gets a chronic illness. It may be depression, it may be any other diagnosed condition, it could be cancer, it could be having a paralysis, it could be, having accident and they have to be dependent the rest of their life. And this can be very disruptive when it comes to our lives. It could be an adult like you and I taking care of our aging parents, and it could be also be a sibling who has to step in into a responsibility early in time, where sometimes when kids who are brought up in families where parents probably have mental health issues and they have to grow up very fast to be able to take care of maybe their younger siblings because their parents are incapacitated to take the responsibility they should enough for them to lead a normal life. You remember the child we saw, a 14-year-old young boy being the caregiver in their family. Well, I don't have the history about what's happening to the mom, but you can imagine the role of a 14-year-old child having to be the one to figure out what happens in that house, feeding the children and everything that happens on a daily basis. That's a very huge responsibility on their shoulders. Sometimes we employ domestic workers who are going to support maybe our relatives or our parents because we can stop working so that we are able to bring in the money or the finances that is needed to sustain this particular journey. And sometimes we do also the head nurses who take care of. So most of the time people talk about caregiving, people think of the last two, but any one of us can be thrown into a caregiving role anytime without sometimes planning for it. Now, for those who have lived it, they will carry now the emotional labor of what happens. They'll carry the physical labor of what happens. And the emotional labor is so silent that sometimes they tend to feel like I'm being too much. So they tend to withdraw and not to share a lot. So what are some of the type of care a caregiver will actually be giving to the person they're taking care of? It could be the physical care, where assuming this is someone who got an accident and got paralysis of all the four limbs. So you have to feed them, you bathe them, you tan them so that they don't develop the bed sores. You move them out so that they can have, to be under the sun, to ensure that they're taking the medication when they should take the medication. And it doesn't necessarily mean that every time you're taking care of these people or the persons you're taking care of, they're also cooperative. So it goes to the emotional care that you have to do to them. Sometimes because of also the pain, the people we are taking care of, as us as the caregiver, the incapacitated persons or the unwell persons, they need our emotional support, even when ourselves we have no one to lean on to. So this emotional care in terms of listening, you need to listen to their needs. You need to listen to the pain they have. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm feeling too hot, even when it feels very cold, and you're worried about them, catching another illness. To comfort them, to tell them it will be fine, even when sometimes as a caregiver, you're not even sure whether it is going to be fine. But you have to carry the positivity, the empathy, and support them through. And by being present. Now, this presence is in this situation where if you're the one taking care of a person who is incapacitated in the house, the moment you want to plan to either go visit somewhere or go attend to something, your mind is sometimes very stressed on what will happen if I am not home. How will they be for that duration I will be away? Now, if there's also a dependence from the incapacitated person in this case, where they feel the only person who understands me, who listens and comforts me is this person, there could be that tug of war where they don't want you to go. Sometimes you feel like you really need to run away from the situation. And this emotional care sometimes is what becomes the draining factor on some other areas that we'll talk about as we continue. Needless to say, the finances needed to take care of this is usually hefty. Why? For such cases, they either come with occupational care needs, they'll come with either frequent visits to the doctors, they'll come with frequent medications that need to be refilled every so often. And with the dwindling resources, this becomes a burden, either to the family or to the individual. And this is where it tests a lot of the relationships that we have in our family setup, even in our intimate relationships. Because sometimes some of these expenses are not covered by the insurance, or at some point, the insurance is exhausted prior to the next time you're doing the renewal, and you have to go back into the pocket. And yet, the same pocket is where you're having to provide the daily care needs that are not covered by the insurance. So the financial type of care is also another one that brings a lot of emotions and conflicts, and sometimes a lot of psychological pressure. So the other type of care is in decision making, because if they're not able to make those decisions, they rely on you. If it's a parent, they want you to know where is what, that I need this to be taken care of at this point in time. So they are relying on you to continue to where they stopped and ensure that it happens the way it should. Also, sometimes you to help them in making critical life or health choices so that they're able to live a more comfortable life, and even ease what it is they're going through. But the truth that needs to be said here is that sometimes you look at the people giving this caregiving role as, I think Nancy is the strongest in that family. Actually, she's the only one who can do that. And we could be in a family of 7, 8 people, 5, 6, but everybody else does not want to do this. But that one person who volunteers to do it, we want to tag as they're very strong in their family, and then everybody else scatters. The other times is you're seen as a responsible child. So to a point, even the person being taken care of feels the only child who understands my need is this one, without them knowing that on this other side, these tags we are giving them, they may look very nice to the society, to the community, that you're a responsible child, you're a strong person. But what happens to a caregiver in private? That you're that person who everybody gravitates towards because you're a listener, you have solutions, you don't complain, you create time even when you don't have the time. The deeper truth is sometimes we ascribe these roles because we see people being able to do it even when we don't want to try it. We say, I would rather give the money, I will create the time, but you don't want the presence or even to partake and do the same. So, as we dive into this, I usually believe that when we share real lived experiences, it helps us to feel it from the person who has gone through it and how it feels, and to give us a perspective, and probably so that even when you're asking how does it feel, we feel it from them. And because I love storytelling, because lived experiences give us these perspectives, I want to invite Anne. Anne has been a caregiver to 3 members of her family, and she will share with us how that felt in a few minutes. Anne, if you're in with us, please join and welcome.
Thank you, Nancy, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing my experience as a caregiver. I think 3 times. My sister who had cancer, and then she got depression. My elder sister, my firstborn sister, had surgery. I had to take care of her. And then my mom, I'm talking of currently, and she's getting stable. So one of the challenges of caregiving is emotional overload. And sometimes everyone labels you as the strong one in the family. I'm the 4th born in a family of 8, and everybody thinks that I'm the strong one. But the emotional overload sometimes gets overwhelming, especially if the sick person is not cooperative, and most of the time they are not, because you're trying to support them and sometimes they are not cooperative. So sometimes it gets very overwhelming. You get irritable, you get exhausted physically, mentally, you don't get enough sleep, you don't get time for yourself. Like I remember that was back in 2023. I didn't even have time for taking care of my hair because I was all over the place, hospital visits. So all your time. So there's that challenge of balancing my own time and taking care of the sick person, and the hospital visits, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. It's like you have to go to hospital every day. So there was the financial burden, there was the physical, there was the mental. It was just all rounded. And one of the things that I would encourage anyone who's taking care of someone who is sick is that just create time for yourself. Create time for yourself and let other people also come in and help you. Don't be the strong one, because you can easily break down. Because I remember I had to go for therapy. That time I was taking care of my sister. I had to go for therapy because it was just too much. I couldn't take it anymore. I was just breaking down completely. So I had to go for therapy and just take time for myself. Taking care of the self-care. The self-care is very, very key when you're taking care of the sick people. I think that's all. Anything else maybe Nancy would want me to talk about?
Yes, Anne, take us through a bit of your experience with your sister, like giving us the story behind you have been able to do very well in giving us the challenges. What exactly was the journey like with your sister in a few minutes?
Okay. As I said, she had cancer, esophagus cancer, and then after cancer, she got depression. So you can imagine the depression was even, I think what was overwhelming for me was not even the cancer, the depression. Because most of the time she would get the episodes at night and I couldn't sleep. So most of them she couldn't sleep the night. If she's not sleeping, I also would not sleep because she would come into my bedroom. We had separate bedrooms, and I had to move into her house for like 1 year. So to take care of her. So it was a very long journey. So the challenges I had with depression is lack of sleep, because I couldn't sleep. So if you're not sleeping, you're not able to take care of this person because you're not sleeping. The other challenge I had is eating. I was too overwhelmed that I lost so much weight because I didn't have time to eat, or when I used to eat very little because of the stress. There was a lot of stress with the depression because I was not getting sleep. She was not getting better. Sometimes it was up and down. Today she's like this, tomorrow there was a lot of inconsistencies with the depression. The cancer was a bit better. So the depression bit was the one that really overwhelmed me. It was very difficult for me. So what I did is she was admitted at one point at Chiromo because she became suicidal. She took some dawa, some overdose, and then I just thought this was too much, and the doctor had to admit her because she became suicidal. She took some dawa. It took her to hospital. It was an emergency. They had to detox her, and then now she was admitted in Chiromo like for 2 weeks. So that was now the epitome of everything. When she got suicidal, then I saw this is now getting out of hand. Because the doctor had asked me if I wanted an admission. I just said no, we'll just take care of her at home. So when she attempted, because she attempted to commit suicide, that is when saw the red flags and we had to let her go. That is the time I rested for 2 weeks. But I didn't rest because I was in hospital like every day, because I had to go all the way to Chiromo to be visiting her like every day. And then that is how she recovered. And then she came back home like after 2 weeks. And now she started regaining her mental health gradually. And then she got back to her feet. But the most challenging part was the sleep. And I forgot myself. I never used to eat. I never used to take care of myself because the physical and the emotional overload was, it was very hefty for me, like for like 3 months. So lack of sleep, insomnia, she couldn't sleep. She was all over the place. Sometimes she was just behaving like a mad person in the house. So it was very challenging for me. By the grace of God, she got well and she went back to work.
Thank you so much, Anne. Allow me to just ask one follow-up question. What did this do to your job?
Work balance. I was still working. I'm a counselor, and I used to teach. I'm also a trainer, and my students understood because I shared with them what I was going through. But most of the time, I was not sober in class, so I had to take a break. I couldn't teach because I was not sober. I was not taking clients. So even the work balance and taking care of the sick person was also a very big challenge because I was still teaching, I was still taking care of her. So I had to take a break from teaching and even seeing clients because clearly I was not able to do that time. I had to take a break. So I took a break from work so that I concentrate on caregiving. I went back to work after she became better.
Thank you so much, Anne. We can share some love for Anne for allowing us to share into her story, because it's never easy to sometimes share what we are going through. When my dad was diagnosed with cancer, one of the things she told us was that she does not want this information shared out there. So he wants us to keep it. And keeping it in the family meant that we just have to share the roles. We are very few in our family. So it means we had to take in the entire role of doing that. Why? Because there's also the stigma of some of these conditions that we easily don't want to ask for help. So, Anne, I really appreciate you for sharing with us and allowing us into your space. One of the things that Anne has highlighted for us is that the psychological identity of a caregiver tends to shift immediately. You have to take over that role because there's the feeling if I don't show up, things will fall apart. It made her leave her house to join her sister so that she can take care of her. And these are the roles of a caregiver. They are never formally ascribed. From what she says, they're eight in the family, and she had to step up. She had to step up, and they call her the strong one. And usually, the reason why you see why in a family of many people, even a few people, why one person steps up is because of love. You know, this is my parent, this is my child, this is my partner. It's a duty, it's a responsibility that I cannot run away from. The other reason could be the circumstance. I mean, there's no one else. So if you're an only child, or if you're the spouse, there's no one else who can step up to do this. So that's how you take up the caregiving role. Culturally, it's expected that this is what we do in families. So families have to step up and take the roles, and whether everyone is going to participate or not, now that becomes different. So while Anne has summarized for us, let's go through this and pick one by one. What's the physical toll that comes with being a caregiver? She's talked about chronic sleep deprivation. Because if this is someone who has to be given medication at a certain time in the night, if this is someone who is experiencing a lot of pain that they can't sleep, or they are wailing through their pain. Or there are people who, if they're demented, for example, and sometimes they have to wander around, you have to be alert, awake, to be able to follow up with this. So this chronic sleep deprivation over time becomes a very severe burnout. Now, for those who have to do lifting, for example, you have this patient who is bedridden. You don't want them to develop bed sores. Over time, you're the only person, and you have to do all the physical work to turn them, to shift them, to change sheets, to dress them. So all these movements, as you try to take care of them, causes of back pains or other physical pains, and weakening of immunity, partially because of the body becomes, when the body is not resting, it means we have a lot of cortisol in our body, which also suppresses our eating, which now again weakens our immunity. So, and psychologically, we are also, taking in a lot of that. So sometimes you get someone getting, flu taking you down, constant flu, sometimes just not feeling well all the time because of the physical pain or the physical um, pressures of the person you're taking care of. Usually, sometimes when caregivers don't take care of themselves, they become the next victim if they do not also have to seek health care because of repeatedly not taking care of themselves, because they have focused solely on the person they are taking care of. And your body is what pays the heavy price, because you ignore your own health. Like Anne has stated very well, that at some point she forgot herself as she took care of her sister. The financial pressure, we had also mentioned it, because we have to pay out of pocket, because we have to do those appointments. We have to, reduce working hours or career abandonment. And Anne's example almost gives us this highlight that if you're working, sometimes you try to have that balance, and you may choose to leave the career and focus on helping this person, because we have said, how did you get ascribed this role? No one else could do it. It's a duty of care. It is because of love. So we choose, and everybody else to rally behind us. That is why I was saying we have all these plans we had in our minds, and they're coming to a halt because we have to shift and do something different. So it's either we cut off, if we have if it is a business, cutting off how frequently you're there. If it is an employer, if they can't understand your absence, then you got to leave and first take care of what is now ahead of you. Lost income, sometimes the savings get depleted, especially as I say, medical cover becomes no longer sustainable, or it gets depleted before time. And this continues affecting family. And in our country, this financial strain pushes many families into poverty, especially in light of, uh, cancer care. It has been quite a burden. Now, on the issue of identity loss, where this means means if you are guilt of leaving makes you reduce it to two, and eventually you stop going, and therefore the social circle that you had becomes smaller. And sometimes you feel like you're also being too, asking for too much by being, sometimes feeling like you keep on telling people what you're going through. There's a lady who told me it almost felt like I'm a broken record, that I'm keeping on telling them I'm feeling like this, and they can't understand, because nobody seems to understand why I can't meet them, because I have to take care of my child who needs me 24/7. But they're telling me self-care is not selfish, but then I can't just leave. So eventually they feel like she's not trying enough. So she stops sharing her problems, and she stops gathering. So her identity, who was I before all this happened? So there's the strain of being isolated by your friends, sometimes feeling isolated by family. We understand our families. Some of our setups is such that uh, one person is left to carry, others don't want to participate, others are not even bothered. So you feel like you're not getting the kind of support that you require. If it is in a couple, for example, then the children feel like the attention was denied to them. If it is the other way, one of the partner may feel that you're spending too much time with with this particular child, and therefore infidelity may come in, or emotional distance, and eventually some families get really, really strained on top of the current strain that they are having. So the identity loss is, I used to be, this is what I used to do for a living. This is what I was in the society. This is what made me people know about me. But now, there is no other way to give yourself that particular identity. There's a loss of personal dreams, because until one comes to an end, the other one cannot begin. And what makes caregiving so heavy? It's not just the work. It is not the work. It is a combination of several things, like chronicity. Most of the caregiving roles come with chronic situations. It could be cancer, it could be paralysis, it could be mental health conditions that are debilitating enough that someone cannot be left by themselves. So it is chronic conditions never come to an end. The other thing is the uncertainty. The uncertainty is that sometimes you don't know the outcome. So you go to the doctor and ask, so what is going to happen? And probably the doctor says, let's live a day at a time. So we want to give you the hope as we go. We think it will be well if you do 1, 2, 3. So we live a day at a time. The other thing that makes caregiving heavy is emotional attachment, because you cannot detach. You cannot detach, because the only way to take care of someone, you have to be present. You have to be connected with them. But there is usually not. This will create the unique form of strain that now you will see it in the social relationship, when people say, you don't understand me, you're not stepping in, you're not helping me, and it continues. So we had talked about the emotional and mental, and here I'll take a bit of time and say this. The emotional layer around caregiving, what people underestimate is how you absorb another person, taking care of a person who lives through pain day in, day out. For you to make them feel taken care of, you have almost to feel with them. That's what we call empathy. And the more you do that, the more, you have to put yourself there. It takes a lot from you, because you want them to feel better, even when you don't know how to make them feel being given. They're only sleeping through an hour, and then the rest of the hours they're awake screaming in pain. We underestimate the regular that happens when you have to take care of someone who can wander away, and then you're all over looking for them. For a child who cannot feed themselves, and you still need to go to Kibarua and bring money back home. And as I said, comforting them, reassuring them, telling them it will be fine, even you yourself, when you can't tell whether it is actually gonna be fine. So the caregivers will often tend to have conflicting emotions of love and resentment at the same time. You love this person so much, but you resent that you can't make them feel better. You're unhappy that the more you try, the more you don't see it coming to an end. So at one point, the love you have for them is what is leading you, but the resentment of sometimes even lack of appreciation, them not to, you want to run away. Things that caregivers don't say. Feeling like you want to run away, shouting at them. You probably have seen people who say, she's been beating that person a lot. What we don't ask ourselves, was that person a cruel caregiver? Or had gotten to their end and feel, I can't take it anymore, I'm also getting frustrated. The other conflicting emotion they get is devotion. You're devoted to this person, but the exhaustion is too much. The devotion and exhaustion, you start feeling like you want to give up. Sometimes when they start making strides of recovery. You start having the gratitude, but sometimes the grief of what ifs. What if we go back to where we are coming from? So there are days you're happy, we are making, and sometimes that is what we are calling the hopelessness that comes with worrying over what can happen to them. So compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is not just being tired. It is erosion of that empathy. It is erosion of the energy that makes you every day wake up knowing that I have a duty of care. It is the gradual erosion of the emotional capacity because of the prolonged exposure to another person's suffering, you know? So, and a caregiver will not wake up one day and just decide to stop caring. No, it happens slowly. You care deeply, you give consistently, you don't recover, then depletion happens. And eventually, care now starts to feel like a burden. And that is where now, when this happens, this protective shutdown happens, where someone starts feeling like they have reduced empathy. But these responses, we need to ask ourselves, how do we help? How do we get to help a caregiver when they get? Because this is a more significant level of the life of a caregiver. How do we identify you as a society? How do you identify you as an individual? Have you seen someone who comes to the office and they're always saying, oh my God, my mom is in my house, I have to take care of them, I slept very late last night, and you're like, oh, hey, you're strong. And it's in passing. You don't take time to hear what they are not saying, because we can hear the words of what they're saying. But what are they not saying? As they sometimes asking, I wish somebody would just, even listen, and maybe they tell me, today I'm going to buy you coffee, or tomorrow I'll come and take care of whatever you need to, and you just go and sleep. Sometimes caregivers, what they're asking for, can somebody just today come in for today's duty? I just want to sleep. I don't even want rahamingi. There's not a lot of self-care I want. I just want to sleep. Step in and make them just have that one day. And they'll always have the gratitude to say, that day when you came, I really was able to sleep. How can you tell that somebody is going through compassion fatigue? So I want, as we are here to learn, because if we have to live in the life of a caregiver, if one day we will be the caregiver, how do we get to know that somebody is getting to their compassion fatigue, that with all the love they had for this person, they feel like they're getting to their very end? Emotionally, they feel numb or detached. Sometimes someone is crying, they're in pain, and you see the person seated is just looking at them and doing nothing. But previously, they would jump on their feet and just give them all this positivity and positive support that, everything is going to be well. But all of a sudden, they just don't want to do nothing. They're detached, like it's happening in another life. It's like a movie not happening in front of them. The other emotional aspect you may notice I've talked about is irritability and anger. If you see someone starting to shout at their children because the person they're taking care of is probably a spouse or a parent, the moment the kid starts becoming to be on the receiving end, they need a lot of help and support. The other thing is the loss of empathy. I can't feel anymore. So behaviorally, you may notice this person is now even not talking to people anymore, is withdrawing away from people and avoiding sometimes even care. You find that the person they were taking care of, they're no longer giving them. So their battery level is at that point. So silent grief, sometimes people get to grief for to judge them. So, because silent grieving, there's usually no funeral, there's no closure, and there's no permission. It's just an acknowledged, an expressed grief they carry while still functioning on a daily basis, because they are grieving for the illness, a child they knew before the illness, circumstances that didn't prepare them for this. And why is it silent? Because this person is still alive. The society does not recognize this as a grief for that person. And the caregiver always has to be strong. And we've talked about it. So they keep suppressing, minimizing, and keep going every other day. So we need to be on the lookout. But while you're at it, we've been given a few ways to do self-care, micro self-care, not luxurious, just take 10 minutes break. But remember, for those who can't, this is where we need to come in and support them. Sometimes give yourself boundaries of how much can I do and when do I need to ask for help. This way you need to create your support village, and these support villages start from way back. If you're not supporting people or helping people in your life now, these are the same people you need in future. So you need to start creating your power support system among friends um, and the community that you live. So what the caregivers, all they need from us, let's recognize them. Let's not just tell them they are strong. Let's not just tell them it will be well. Let's just tell them God will bless you. Sometimes it is your presence. Let's recognize that what they are doing, and one day just be in their presence and see what it takes to do that. Tell them, I will stand in for you for the next 3 hours. Just go sleep. Just sleep. Tell me what I need to do. Be in their presence, see what they do, and just let them have. Give them resources. Sometimes carry some shopping. Sometimes provide for them. Maybe it's the diapers that are needed for the person who is bedridden. For the cancer cases, maybe they just need somebody that day to wheel them to the hospital, and just be present and support them so that we can all be able to understand and live a community of people who don't have to live through mental health experiences that are not written until they break down. And then we are like, oh, we thought she was very strong. If Nancy can break, then this was tough. We don't have to wait until then. Thank you very much. And back to you, Esther.
Wow, wow, thank you, Nancy. That's amazing. That was a good one. And thank you, Anne. Thank you, Anne, for sharing your life with us. Thank you. I see someone saying I really needed this. And we all need this. I saw something, Nancy, the other day that says there are 4 kinds of caregivers. It's either you've been there or you're heading there, you know. But it's important for us to know that caregiving somehow finds us, somehow will find you. I don't know whether we have any questions or any comments. Let me go to the chat box here. Hugs to you, Anne, your true definition of an angel on earth. Thank you, Anne. We truly do appreciate you sharing your life with us. Someone says they needed this. Any question? Do you have any question? Or anyone that would want to ask Nancy a question? You can unmute, feel free. Yes, Vincent.
Yeah.
Vincent, are you speaking to us or? I think you have just unmuted. Anyone who would want to speak to us, say something, add something to what Nancy has taught us. But thank you, Nancy. That was amazing. David, I know you're on the call. Would you want to say anything? I was saying there are only 4 kinds of people in this world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, and those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregiving. You can hear me, Nancy? Can you hear me?
I think Esther has dropped off, and when she was here, she was asking whether we have anyone with a question before she comes back. Probably she got a technical hitch.
I'm back, Nancy. Thank you. I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So I was asking if there's anyone with a question or a comment. I see. Does being a caregiver mean physically being with a person needing care, That's from Esther. It's a great session. Most people take caregivers for granted. Thank you for this great talk. I really appreciate it. So maybe Nancy, you can take that up. Does being a caregiver mean physically being with a person needing care?
Thank you, Esther. Caregiving is not about proximity. It's about the responsibility that comes with it and the psychological presence. So to say no, and it's a very good question, because what we need to identify is that sometimes some of us are also giving care by not being present, because remember you say some of us have to work for this to happen. That's why we will bring in either a nurse or a domestic worker. So there is the caregiving that is hands-on, that is physical, where we are doing all the things we've talked about. And there is now the people who give the long distance caregiving, because these people may be coordinating care. They could be sending the money, they could be checking in constantly or managing decisions remotely. And they also have their own intense mental load, because they also have to keep calling and worrying when they cannot be closely by. So it doesn't have to necessarily be very physically present, but it means that this is someone who is also investing their time, emotions, to be able to provide and support. Yes. So people who are psychologically engaged but may not be physically present there.
Okay, great. And I see Anne saying people take caregivers for granted. You know? I see Jen was signing out. I know she was going for a Bible study, but she says, thank you for the meeting. Very educative. I've been a caregiver for 28 years. That's amazing. That's amazing that someone can really have the strength to caregive for that long. God bless you, Jane. Any other question or comment? Other question or comment? I have shared some links there in the chat. We have a WhatsApp community where you can join. Now, in our community, we have a caregivers group. So once you join that, you're also free to join the caregivers group. We have a platform where we share experiences and we encourage one another. Okay, you can go to the chat and check that out. We also have a wellness platform where we ensure that we are taking care of ourselves, and not just for caregivers, but for everyone else. We have events around the year. We have conversations every Wednesday, 7 to 8 p.m. The month of May, we have dedicated this month to caregiving, the mental health of caregivers. So we will talk about emotional resilience next week with the psychologist Faith Duo. We will also be talking about supporting employees who are caregivers in this month as well. And we will have a medical practitioner as well who will walk us through caregiving and what we should do and what we should not do, or how we should do it, especially in giving the drugs and also hygiene and all that around caregiving. So stay tuned, join our network, join our conversations. This session will be uploaded on our YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Conversations with Esther Katiba. We will upload this. You can listen to it again and again, and you can also share it with your friends. Find me on LinkedIn, Esther Katiba, and let's have a conversation. But every Wednesday, we meet here 7 to 8 p.m. for different conversations around workplace, legal matters, wellness, and holistic wellness. Nancy, As I check through the last ones, I want you to tell us where we can find you and how we can reach you. Yes.
Nothing, Mom. It's just that
Thank,
she's like a member.
thank you so much again,
Thank you,
Esther.
just stay away from the baby, so.
And Misia, if you can mute yourself, we'll appreciate. You can reach me on my cell phone contact 0702 126007. We also have a website. As Esther mentioned earlier, we have a web platform where you can go online, log in if you want to be matched to a therapist. It's purely online, and once you put in the credentials, you get matched with a therapist and you start your sessions. Physically, if you would want to have a session with me using my contact, I can guide you on where to find me. I'm usually at Chiroma Hospital most times, but other times I could be at my clinic. So 0702 126 007. I have put it on the chat. I have also shared the website link on the chat. The charges on our website, it is all indicated there. When you sign up on the website, you'll be guided whether you want to take a solo session, whether you want to take more. It gives you a package and saves you some coins. So once you sign up, when you check on our website, you will be guided on that. I hope I answered that on Broken Empath. Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you, too. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Yes. They said yes, you answered. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Take care of yourself. Self-care is not selfish. Take care of yourselves. Take some good rest and learn to ask for help. Thank you. God bless you and have a good night. Thank you, Nancy. God bless you.